Action research is one of the most slept on processes in all of school improvement. In this video, I'm going to give you an introduction into action research theory and talk to you a little about how you can use it to improve teaching and learning in your school or classroom. Hi friends, I'm Matthew Courtney and I help schools help kids. And on this channel, we talk all about evidence-informed school improvement. So if you're into that, hit subscribe and come be a part of our community of improvers. All right, let's get into it today. And let's start by answering the question, what is action research anyway? Action research is a practitioner-focused method of problem solving. It's all about you, friend. It's all about you as a practitioner sitting down and saying, hey, I have a problem that I'm not really sure what to do with. And then we apply elements of the scientific method in a slightly more casual style to deeply understand our problem of practice and find and test solutions in real time that can change our teaching and learning climate forever. It is one of my all-time favorite techniques to teach other educators to do because it transformed my classroom and I have seen it transform hundreds of teachers' classrooms over the years. Participants in my evidence-informed educator coaching program, in my workshops, in my online classes, in my virtual live classes, these educators are learning how to use action research to change teaching and learning in real time in their setting. Let me share with you one of my favorite case studies, and this is my good friend, Nora. Nora is a first grade teacher, and about a year ago, she was really struggling with a student who had come to her classroom and was not fully potty trained. She did what all good teachers do. She went to the family, she had some conversations, she even engaged with the family's permission with their local doctor. She talked to the school nurse, and what they found was that this was an underlying behavioral problem for this child, not a medical or physiological one. And so she turned to the research literature to think about and find ways to help potty train a first grader. She designed an intervention, she implemented it, she collected the data, she proved it was working, she helped potty train that child. And not only did she change her classroom environment for the rest of the school year, she changed the life of that kid forever. And that is why action research is so important to me, because I have seen time and time again how it has truly changed students and teaching environments and learning environments fundamentally. And so I'm really excited that you're on this journey with me as we're going to talk about action research in this video and in other videos to come. So let's take a look now at the process of action research. What does it actually look like to complete an action research project? Here you see the 6 steps of completing an action research project. First, we ask a question. Following that, we do a literature review to understand our question. Next, we take our literature review and use that to inform a hypothesis. We then design and conduct an experiment to test our hypothesis. We analyze the results of our experiment, and then we create new insight by combining the results of our experience with our practitioner knowledge. Let's take a look at each of these steps a little more closely, starting with step 1, asking a question. When designing an action research project for continuous improvement, we want to make sure that we're choosing a question that is rooted in a current problem of practice. What you want to do is sit back and take in the whole landscape of your school and classroom environment. You want to take stock of what's really working for you and what's not working so well, and hone in on the specific root causes and problems that are causing you challenges as you move toward a more successful space. These problem of practices are essential for action research and continuous improvement because if we can solve that problem of practice, we can kind of like check that off on our way, on our journey toward improvement. So we want to be able to identify tangible problems and solve them using this experimental problem. When casting your first question and really starting your project, I always recommend that you start with an I wonder question, a big open-ended question. I wonder what would happen if we increased attendance in our school. I wonder what would happen if I tried this intervention to lower behavior rates. These kind of big open-ended questions set you up well for designing a meaningful action research project, a project that's meaningful to you. That's the most important thing. The question is meaningful to you. It sets you up well to be able to hone that question down through later steps in the process. So start with the big I wonder question and think about, I wonder, what would my classroom or school look like if I solved this problem of practice? Once we have our question, it's time to take a look and do a deep literature review. Now, in my experience, this is the part that most educators dislike the most. And that's because most of us weren't taught to do literature reviews very effectively in our traditional schooling or our grad school. If that's you, take a look at some of the other videos on my channel. I have lots of videos on how to break down the literature review process and make it feel really meaningful to you. For our purposes today, let's just talk about why we do a literature review in the first place. We take our question, we do a literature review because we want to understand the current line of thinking around our problem of practice, around our big I wonder question. As you go through this literature review process and you're sourcing articles and you're reading about the current thinking of your problem, you're going to start to see possible solutions, maybe interventions that you can try. Maybe you find your exact problem in another research article and you can implement their successful solution right away. I can't tell you how many times I've had students and coaching clients do exactly that. They find the answer to their problem during their literature review process, and they simply go in and implement it right away. That is a fantastic outcome of this process. It's also a little unlikely that you're going to find someone with exactly the same problem. So what we're really doing here is we're taking in as much information as we can, and we're synthesizing it together so that we can gain a new, deeper understanding of our problem of practice. And that synthesis not only helps us become better evidence-informed practitioners, but it helps us narrow down our I wonder question into something really targeted, which is our hypothesis. So now it's really time to get down to business. We've got our I wonder question, we've informed that question through the literature review, and now it's time to make a hypothesis, to take that I wonder question and to really hone it down into something that we can actually test and experiment with. So think about hypotheses in the creation of an if-then statement. If I do this, then this is going to happen. If I try this intervention, then behavior problems will drop in my classroom. If I try this new teaching strategy, then student achievement will increase in reading or math or whatever content area I'm working on. These hypotheses are important because we're going to use them to design our experiment later on. But it's really important not to jump straight to this step. Many educators want to do that because educators are kind of scientists and experimenters all the time. They're always trying new things out. But if you skip that literature review step and jump straight down into hypothesizing, you're going to have less information to build your experiment around. So you really want to think critically about creating that effective I wonder question rooted in a problem of practice, and then infusing that problem of practice, your practitioner knowledge, with that literature knowledge to create a strong if-then statement that you can test. We test that hypothesis with an experiment. Now, don't let experiments freak you out. You do experiments all day, every day. Every time you have a new idea and you try it out, you collect a little data and you make a decision. That's what teachers do every day. And that's why action research is so valuable to teachers, because that's what you do. When it comes to designing an experiment for action research, we're going to be a little more formal than those casual everyday experiments that you do in your classroom. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply an established and proven research design. Think about research designs kind of like a roadmap to help you understand how to structure your research project and how to get your idea from point A to point B. There's dozens of research designs for you to choose from, and I'm going to cover those more deeply in other videos in this series. But for now, let's talk abstractly about kind of how they work. So the first thing in choosing a research design is you want to think about what can I control and what can't I control in my environment. Let's say that you are a self-contained teacher and you can control everything about your environment and where your students go and what they're doing throughout the day. Then an experimental or randomized control trial might be a good study design for you to try. This is where we put all the kids in a hat and we sort them out into two groups. And one group gets an intervention, another group doesn't, and then we compare them at the end to see which group did better. It's more likely that you can't control all aspects of your students' schedule during the day, and so a quasi-experimental group might be better for you. In a quasi-experimental study, you take two previously assigned groups. One group gets the intervention, one group doesn't get the intervention, they just keep going as normal, and then we compare them at the end. Quasi-experimental designs are great, especially if you're a teacher who teaches the same class over multiple sections. So if you have first, second, third, and fourth period algebra, and it's all, let's say, all freshman algebra, then maybe first period and second period get an intervention. Third period and fourth period get business as usual. And then at the end, you compare those two groups. That's a quasi-experimental design. Then another popular option is the correlational study. This is really ideal for you if you have very little control over your students' schedules and what you do during the day. And this is going to just help you understand if there's a relationship between the implementation of your intervention and your desired outcome. But it's important to remember, correlation does not mean causation. And so you will not know whether or not your intervention caused the outcome, only if they're related. After you finish your experiment, it's time to analyze your data. You're going to collect all the data that you pulled together during your experiment, and you're going to use a combination of descriptive and inferential statistics to try to understand the real-world impact your intervention had on the kids right in front of you. Now, again, don't stress about those statistics. I'm going to teach you all about how to do that. There's already videos on my channel about both descriptive and inferential statistics, but we're also going to do some special videos during this series on action research about using those statistics through the lens of action research as you work to improve teaching and learning in your school or classroom. What I want you to think about now is causality. Causality is this idea that we did this intervention, and this intervention caused this outcome. And in a well-designed action research project, we should know at the end if there is a strong relationship, we call that correlation, or a strong causality between the two things. This helps to inform our decision. This is where we get to put our data hats on. We become data-driven decision makers, and we really take a hard look at what we've experienced to find out if it really worked or not, so we can make a better decision moving forward. Finally, we're going to take the sum of our experience and combine that together to create new insights that can actually drive and promote change. Think really critically at this stage about the data that you've collected, about the experience that you've had, about the problem of practice that you started with, and combine all of that with your ongoing practitioner experience and expertise. Never let anyone tell you that your practitioner experience is not evidence, that it is not data, and that it is not part of a data-driven or evidence-informed improvement process. Your practitioner knowledge and experience is so vital for the success of any continuous improvement cycle, especially action research. So in our final stage, we're going to take that information that we have, we're going to take the data that we've collected, we're going to take our personal experience, our personal practitioner knowledge about the environment that we're in, we're going to merge that together into new insight. And that insight becomes the actionable information that drives our decision-making moving forward. And so always be thinking about, where do we go at the end of this? How do I, as a practitioner, take my knowledge and actually inform changes in my classroom? How do I create new insights that promote that change? One of my favorite things about this process and working directly with teachers and with school leaders is that a lot of times the change we identify isn't right in front of you, or maybe it's not a change that you can directly impact at all. Maybe you have to use your new insights to become an advocate for your student, an advocate for your peers, and change other parts of your system, other practices and policies within your system to make your action research project stick, to make your improvement permanent and sustainable and lasting. Don't ever discount yourself. Your practitioner knowledge is so important, and the insight that you get when you merge practitioner knowledge with the data analysis from your action research project is true empowerment. That's why a coaching program is called Evidence Empowered Educators, because when we put all of this together, it is true empowerment that allows you to advocate for real systemic change. This video is just the first in what will become a series of deep dive videos into the Action Research Project in education. My goal is that this series will help you fully understand and be able to implement action research projects on your own. So make sure you hit subscribe, turn on those notifications so you don't miss a single video. And if you're ready to get started today, Check out my book, Adventures in Action Research, at www.matthewbcourtney.com/shop.